Howdy. I'm Erin Kimbrough. I'm the Battleground to Breaking Ground program manager for Texas A&M AgriLife Extension's Battleground to Breaking Ground program. I think you guys are all involved with us in some way, some fashion. Some of you are partners, some of you are participants, but we are grateful that you guys are all here with us today. So this is our Community of Practice webinar series that we do. So if you guys are not aware, we have our group of our current participants and our former graduates and our mentors and our program partners that are all part of our Community of Practice. And we do polls every once in a while, ask you guys what topics that you're interested in, things that you need have additional questions about, or just want additional information about. And then you vote on those, and then we find the speakers to address those. So you guys, there was a large amount of you that wanted to know about organics and organic certification and what that process looks like. And so Kelby, I am so proud of her. She got our speakers together and she got presentations together, and she's put together just a really wonderful presentation for you guys today. So we will be recording this. We'll post it in the group once we're finished, and we'll post it also on our Texas AgriBility YouTube channel. So if you'll join that, and we'll probably send you out a little post survey once we finish today. And with that, we'll just jump in. So tell you a little bit about the Battleground program to begin with. Like I said, I think you guys all know, but just a refresher. Our Battleground Breaking Ground program educates military veterans, active duty military, and other beginning farmers and ranchers to either start or expand production agriculture operations. So we do that in a lot of ways with your help. You can see from here our little slide that's got a lot of our partners. Most of you have been with us a long time. You've helped us actually build this program for the ground up, and we are so grateful to be part of such an amazing network of people who really believe in each other and the value of agriculture. So I'm going to let Miss Kelby go ahead and just jump in and introduce our speakers, and I will control the slides. So speakers, whenever you want me to change the slide, just tell me slide. We'll advance it forward. I know there's one of our speakers that has some things to share with us, and I'll give them hosting capabilities, and they'll be able to share their screen. And I think that's about it. So like we were visiting a little bit before, you do have a chat feature. So as we're going through, if you have questions and you want to ask a question of our presenter or any of us really, you can just go ahead and use that chat box, type your question in there, and we'll address questions specifically for that presentation, that portion of the presentation at the end of their presentation. And then at the very end, after all presentations are done, then we'll open it up for our panelist speakers, and they can answer questions to you guys directly. Otherwise, if you will do us a favor and go ahead and keep those microphones on mute so we don't get any background noise. And I think that is it. So Miss Kelby, I will let you take it away.
Yay. Okay. All right. Well, good morning, y'all. I know you've probably heard and had a lot of email interaction with me, but I'm excited to have these speakers here today and kind of give y'all some information. So our first speaker, her name is Rebecca Claypool, and she is from the National Organic Program. And really, I just wanted Rebecca to come and just talk to y'all about the National Organic Program and everything that is involved with that, and organic certification. So Rebecca, whenever you're ready, we have the slides set up for you.
Okay, terrific. Thanks, Kelby, for the intro. Should I have my video on? I'm happy to. I just didn't know if it's distracting for the slides.
It is. It's completely up to you. A lot of us are kind of in rural areas, and we can barely run the internet and the video at the same time. So if you want to leave your video on, it's absolutely fine.
Okay. All right. I will. I'm just accustomed to it, so I will. Well, thank you for the introduction, and thank you for having us here today. I'm excited to be able to participate in this great presentation lineup, it looks like. So my name's Rebecca Claypool. I work with the USDA National Organic Program, and tonight I'm going to talk to you about organic certification in the organic program. You can go to the next slide. So I'll start with sharing a little bit about the organic market, what it means to be organic, and who's involved in the organic program. We'll review the organic certification process and resources across the USDA that support organic agriculture. And I'll be happy to take your questions at the end. So next slide. Okay, so the organic food market is a rapidly growing market. It's seen steady growth over the years. Currently, it's the fastest growing market in the US food industry. Organic sales make up just under 6% of total US food sales, and the organic sales hit a new high in 2020 with sales just over $63 billion. There are more than 45,000 farms certified organic around the world, and over 27,000 of those farms are here in the US. Next slide. So as the organic industry continues to grow, it's really helpful to revisit what exactly does organic mean. Next slide. The term organic is defined in the organic regulations, which are federal laws, as a labeling term that refers to an agricultural product produced in accordance with the Act and the regulations in this part. So the organic regulations are process-based, and they establish the requirements for how food and agricultural products must be grown and produced in order to be certified organic. Next slide. So products that are certified organic may use this USDA organic seal that you can see here. And the seal and the use of the term organic is regulated and overseen by the USDA. It's the Agricultural Marketing Service National Organic Program. So the National Organic Program where I work is a division of AMS, the Agricultural Marketing Service, within the USDA. And the seal, the USDA organic seal, represents all the requirements encompassed in the regulations. So organic production emphasizes naturally derived ingredients and processes. When you see the USDA organic seal, you can trust that the product was produced using only allowed ingredients and methods, that the farm used physical, mechanical, and biological farming methods that support biodiversity and soil health, and that the farms and businesses selling organic products are reviewed under a rigorous certification process. And then once operations are certified, they can apply the USDA seal to their products. Yeah, you can go to the next slide. So who are all the entities involved in becoming certified organic? Next, we'll review the various roles in the structure of the organic program. So you can advance. Okay, so here you can see the primary stakeholders in the organic industry. The National Organic Program here in bright blue is a federal regulatory program. So this is where I work. And this program develops the rules and regulations for the production, handling, labeling, and enforcement of all USDA organic product, and enforces consistent national standards for organically produced agricultural products sold in the United States. So we develop the standards based on input from the public and recommendations from the National Organic Standards Board. So that's that little box right below the National Organic Program with the orange arrow. The NOSB, so the National Organic Standards Board, is a federal advisory committee. And it's made up of 15 volunteer members. Each member is appointed by the Secretary of Agriculture to serve a 5-year term. They meet twice a year to consider petitions to changing the organic regulations, review substances already on the list, which is within the regulations, to hear public comments, see expert presentations, and make recommendations to the department on organic agricultural products. NOP also has a public-private partnership with third-party organizations to certify farms and businesses that they meet to the national organic standards. So here in green in the middle, we have our certifiers. And these certifiers must be accredited by the NOP, so the National Organic Program. And then they work with the USDA to enforce the standards to ensure a level playing field for all producers and protecting consumer confidence in the integrity of the USDA organic seal. These certifiers can be state government agencies, they can be private or nonprofit organizations. And then the certifying agencies certify operations here in purple over on to the right. So such as farmers, ranchers, and processors. Farmers and businesses that want to sell products as organic apply to one of these third-party certifiers. And then organic operations sell their products to retailers and consumers here in dark blue down in the corner. So you can advance. Okay, so the NOP, the National Organic Program, is the center of the USDA oversight and enforcement for organic integrity. Our mission is to protect the integrity of USDA organic products in the United States and throughout the world. Our program's vision is organic integrity from farm to table. Consumers trust the organic label. And our core role is to implement the Organic Foods Production Act and the USDA organic regulations. And we do that by developing consistent national standards, which defines what it means to be organic. The organic standards cover all the requirements that we talked about in the behind the seals slide that we just saw, and more. So in the center, we also facilitate sound and sensible certification for farms and businesses. And as you heard, one of our primary activities is accrediting these third-party certifiers to actually certify farms and businesses as organic. And then finally, we also conduct fair and fast enforcement. So enforcement of the organic standards is how we protect the seal. Because organic products carry a cost premium compared to some conventional products, there can be an economic incentive to commit fraud. So to sell organic product or non-organic product as organic. And this is a violation of federal law. So we do work with other departments and agencies to respond when fraud is suspected or has occurred. You can advance. So next we'll look at the certifying agents. So that's the green in the center. Certifying agents must be accredited by the NOP again, and they are the ones that actually go out and certify operations as organic. So this means that the organic operations have demonstrated compliance with the organic standards through documentation, so a lot of paperwork, but hopefully not too much paperwork, and an on-site inspection. And the certifiers acknowledge that compliance by granting certification to those operations. You can advance. So the NOP also administers the Organic Integrity Database, and this is an online searchable database of all certified operations around the world and accredited certification agencies. So users can use this database to find a certifier, to look up a certain organic operation, or to search for products. So here I've included a little screenshot of some of the certified operations in Texas. And you can't see it on the screenshot, but if you're actually on the webpage, if you scroll down to the bottom, there will be a total and it will show you all the certified operations within Texas, which is 765. There are advanced search options you can explore once you get into this database to find something specific that you might be looking for. And under the search tab up at the top left, there is a certifier locator. So you can use this feature to find all certifying agents or a specific certifying agent. And many certifiers operate in regions that are far beyond where their main office is located. So if you're looking for a certifier, it doesn't necessarily have to be in your local region. You can advance. Okay, so we've talked about the role of the NOP and certifying agents. And now we'll touch on the certified operations. Organic operations can be farmers, ranchers, processors, and handlers that grow and process a whole range of organic products. And these products are then sold to buyers, retailers, or directly to consumers. You can advance. Okay, an operation can be certified organic under 4 different scopes of production. So we have crops, livestock, wild crops, and handling, which is essentially processing organic products. Operations may be certified for more than one scope, such as a dairy farm, which would have to be certified for livestock to cover their cows, and then also crops to cover their pasture and hay and any crops that they may grow. Wild crops includes the harvesting of like wild mushrooms or ramps or even kelp and seaweed. Those are just a few examples. And then handling includes all processing and packaging and labeling of organic products. You can advance. Okay. So now let's just talk a little bit about the certification process. You can advance again. Organic certification is an annual process required of all certified operations. So producers must first adopt organic practices and submit an application to a certifier, which will include what we call an organic system plan and commonly referred to as an OSP. The certifier will review that application and the OSP, and the OSP essentially describes how you do everything on your farm. and each certifier has a slightly different version of the OSP, but that encompasses your whole farm plan. So your certifier will review that application and your OSP, and the certifier will then conduct an on-site inspection of the operation. And then the certifier will get the inspection report back, and they may have questions or concerns that they'll communicate to the operation for clarification or correction. And if the review determines that the operation is in compliance with the organic standards, then the certifier will issue an organic certificate and grant certification. Once your operation is certified, you do have to undergo recertification every year if you want to continue to sell certified organic products. So for reapplication, operations submit an updated application that includes any changes, so new crops, any new products, and even new inputs such as a fertilizer that you're requesting to use. And generally there's an initial review of that updated application, then the operation will have their on-site inspection, and that inspection report gets reviewed by the certifier along with the OSP, and then a determination is made by your certifier. So that is the process for certification in advance. So here I'll just go over some of the general organic requirements for the crops, livestock, and handling scopes. For crops, operators must follow an organic system plan and OSP, and this is true for all scopes. They should maintain buffer zones to prevent prohibited substances from impacting organic areas. They may not use prohibited substances, which would be on the national list. Sewage sludge, irradiation, or genetic engineering, GMOs. They must use organic seeds when commercially available. They must document management practices, including weed and pest management. And they must use practices that maintain or improve soil conditions and minimize erosion. And they may use natural inputs or approved synthetic substances on the national list. And one big requirement that I didn't get into this slide is that any land that a farmer is using must be free of prohibited inputs for 3 years before the harvest of an organic crop. So that's a big requirement, and that one often requires that 3-year transition that you hear about for many farmers, just depending on the history of the land use. You can advance. For livestock operations, they must also follow an organic system plan, and they must provide year-round access to outdoors for their livestock. They must use 100% organic feed. They must not use antibiotics, growth hormones, slaughter byproducts, or any GMOs. They must document the organic status of all animals. And for ruminants, animals must receive 30% of their dry matter intake from pasture, and the grazing season must be at least 120 days with the animals on pasture. You can advance. And for handlers or processors, operations again must follow their OSP, and they must prevent commingling or contamination of organic products by non-organic products during the processing and storage of ingredients. So some operations may manufacture or process both organic and non-organic products in the same facility. So this becomes especially important for those split operations. Handlers must control pests by practicing prevention first, and then use mechanical and physical controls before using substances to manage the pests. They must use certified organic ingredients in organically labeled products, must use labels only approved by their certifier, and they may not use irradiation or GMOs. Next slide. So the national list of allowed and prohibited substances is a list that's a part of the organic regulations. And this is where you can determine if an input is allowed for use in organic production, such as a fertilizer or a pesticide. The national list has separate sections for crops, livestock, and processing or handling. The crop and livestock production, for that section, all natural substances are allowed unless they're specifically prohibited. And all synthetic substances are prohibited for use unless they're specifically allowed. So in general, you can understand it as naturals are allowed and synthetics are prohibited, but there are some exceptions, and you can find those all in the national list. It's kind of an easier way to think about it. You can advance the slide. So I'm going to just touch briefly on the labeling. There's a lot to talk about with labeling, but I'll just go over this quickly. There are 4 different types of products that may make organic claims. The first 3 here, 100% organic, organic, and made with organic, all must be certified. The fourth type here on the right, these are products that just list organic ingredients in the ingredients list on the information panel of the label, but they're not actually certified and they can't make organic claims. The 100% organic and the organic products, they can use the USDA organic seal on their labels, but the made with organic products cannot use the seal even though they're certified organic. They just don't have enough organic content to be allowed to use the USDA seal. So there's lots more on labels, but I'll leave it there so that we can have time for some other topics. You can advance. Okay, resources. So I want to make sure I can share with you some of the resources from USDA. So you can advance to the next slide. Great. In my notes. Awesome. Okay, the USDA supports all types of farmers and producers, and they have many resources for organic producers as well as farmers transitioning to organic production. So you can see the 5 different categories here. Certification and oversight. Here, the NOP's website has a lot of information on training as well as for transitioning farmers. The Farm Service Agency, FSA, oversees the Organic Certification Cost Share Program, which provides financial assistance to all certified operations that apply to help cover some of the certification costs. And then in the conservation resources, Natural Resources Conservation Service, so NRCS, provides many resources for farmers. They have cost share programs, they have a soil health assistance, they have conservation programs, financial assistance, technical assistance of many types. So there are a wealth of information. Data and research, the USDA also produces statistical surveys. Market News releases commodity-specific price data, and they give out research grants to universities and other research organizations as well. And then in farmer resources, this includes low-interest loans from the FSA, a high tunnel cost share through NRCS, and there are many other resources on farmers.gov. And then lastly, there's more and more work being done for market promotion at the local and regional levels. Okay, so the NOP has developed and maintains an Organic Integrity Learning Center. So the name of it didn't pop up on the slide there for some reason, but this is called the Organic Integrity Learning Center, and it's a free online training center to provide continuing education for organic professionals. So there's 20 plus courses with over 73 lessons, and more courses are being developed every year and added to our center. So there are courses from a range of types, so ones that could prepare a producer for their first inspection, and then really advanced courses for inspectors conducting audits during like a processing inspection. You can advance. Here are 2 courses that cover the basics. So Organic 101 is an introduction to organics, and 201, which goes into more depth on certification and the standards. Anyone can sign up for a free account and begin taking self-paced on-demand courses online. And you can get to this through the NOP's website as well. So you can advance. NOP's website contains fact sheets, our program handbook, the regulations, training information, a whole page on labeling, Q&A. We also have a newsletter called the Organic Insider that you can subscribe to. So there's lots of resources there. It's a really good resource to check out. And I think that is everything. Do I have any questions? You can advance to the last slide if you want. Yeah.
Hey, Rebecca.
Yeah.
I put a question in the chat just so I wouldn't forget it. So when you're talking about the seeds and they have to be organic when commercially available, what happens if you are trying to start something that doesn't have organically or commercially available organic seeds?
Yeah, exactly. So then generally how certifiers handle this is they'll want to see that you've made a really good effort to search for seeds that are organic. So let's say it's a variety of sweet pepper. If you're a vegetable producer, that you really need this kind of variety, maybe for your buyer or something like that. They'll want to see that you've really looked at different sources, so multiple different seed providers to see if you could find that one organic. And then over time, they might want to see that you're actually doing some like variety trials. So maybe you've tried an organic variety that's slightly different but similar, and start to try it out on your farm to see how it works so that it can, help increase the demand for organic seed. But that's exactly it. If it's not commercially available organically, then right now you're not required to use the organic variety. You can use the non-organic variety. It couldn't be treated and it can't be GMO still, but it could be untreated non-GMO seed.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was wanting to know. I haven't run across it necessarily, but I figured that might be somebody if they're starting up and trying to do specialty type crops, that maybe something they're wanting to do doesn't have seeds available. And how do you start it then? Because we got to start from somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yep, it's a good question. I think it's could be a challenge that some farmers face. Yep.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rebecca. I personally have always been a little worried about organic and what it entails and how to get started. So that really took a lot of that out for me. And I'm going to probably watch some of your courses and see what that looks like. So I'm grateful for that. All right. And then we'll make sure you guys, if you have questions that you think about as you're going through the other presentations, like I said, just put them in the chat and then we'll get to them and once all the presentations are through. So, all right, Ms. Kilby, you want to introduce our next speaker?
Yeah, it looks like we had a question about hydroponic organic certification.
Oh, sure. You want to go ahead and read it off?
And just wanting to know about that and all that entails.
Currently, plants can be produced hydroponically and certified organic. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, great. Well, our next speaker is also from the AMS, from the Agricultural Marketing Service. Her name is Clara Rivera, and she is going to talk about the GAP program and USDA GAP audits. So Clara, whenever you're ready, we have the slides pulled up.
All right. Okay, I'm not seeing the slides pull up. I still see USDA organic on this screen. Okay, here we go.
That was my fault. I had to switch over screens.
No problem. You can move it to the next slide. Thank you. My name is Clara Rivera. I am an audit program coordinator for USDA Audit Services Branch. We have a specialty crops division, and I'm going to talk to you about good agricultural practices and good handling practices, otherwise known as GAP and GIP. Next slide. So AMS and SCP, which is Specialty Crops Program, administers programs that facilitate the fair marketing of U.S. agricultural products, specifically fruits, vegetables, and nuts. We provide a service to the produce industry that helps buyers and sellers market their perishable products. We partner with state agencies for the benefit of nationwide growers, shippers, brokers, receivers, processors, and the food service industry. Next slide. AMS provides independent inspection and audit services and is a non-regulatory agency when it comes to food safety. Food and Drug Administration, otherwise known as the FDA, has the regulatory authority for food safety for produce and seafood. USDA FSIS, which is Food Safety Inspection Service, has also the regulatory authority for most meat and poultry and egg products. Next slide. So this presentation is going to provide you with a brief summary of all of our good agricultural and good handling practices, GAP and GIP audit programs, and we'll review the USDA GAP and GIP audit in detail. Next slide. So good agricultural practices verifies that farmers, packers, and distributors are applying food safety measures and guidelines at their locations. This audit is required for any grower providing fruits and vegetables to the AMS Commodity Procurement Program. Other than that, this audit is totally voluntary. Next slide. Our audit programs are based on an established scientific principle used in the FDA's guidance document to establish the basic requirements for GAP audits. Some additional FDA guidance documents that exist are fresh cut fruits and vegetables, lettuce and leafy greens, melons, and fresh tomatoes. Next slide. So how did the USDA Good Agricultural Practices and Good Handling Practices audit program begin? Well, retailers began requiring suppliers to meet GAP and GIP requirements, and industry came to USDA to request the development of an audit program, which would include recommended standards. The program was developed in conjunction with FDA, Association of Fruit and Vegetable Inspection and Standardization Agencies, otherwise known as AFVISA, and our state partners, also industry and academia. We work in cooperation with state departments of agriculture to provide our services nationwide and internationally with a team of over 200 licensed auditors. Next slide. There are 2 audit programs that can be applied to the production of any specialty crop commodity. We will talk more about the USDA GAP audit. But the Produce GAP's Harmonized Food Safety Audit was developed as the result of an all-industry effort that included growers, shippers, produce buyers, government agencies, audit organizations, and other stakeholders. The goal of the initiative was to provide one audit by any credible third party acceptable to all buyers. There are 2 separate standards which make up the Produce GAP's Harmonized Food Safety Standard. That is the Open Field Production and Harvesting Standard and the Post-Harvest Operations Standard. As their names imply, the Open Field and Harvesting Standard covers the production and harvesting activities, while the Post-Harvest Standard covers packing houses, coolers, and the storage and transportation of specialty crops. Many of the requirements of the 2 standards are the same or similar, but were designed to be applicable to the specific scope of the operation. Next slide. So how do we know which audit to select? Often, the audit that you choose is determined by the requirements of your customers. So whoever you want to sell to, be sure to contact them and to find out if there is a specific audit standard that they prefer you get. Next slide. Our USDA GAP audit covers the entire chain from farm to table, and there are several scopes and additional food defense scope, which is optional. Next slide. As there was audit fatigue amongst growers as they would be audited by so many different entities, the USDA Harmonized Audit was created with the goal of providing one audit by any credible third party acceptable to all buyers. And again, this audit has 2 standards: field operations and harvesting and post-harvest operations. Next slide. USDA worked hard to align the harmonized audit to the requirements in the Food Safety Modernization Act Produce Safety Rule by FDA. So now a grower can feel confident in knowing that if they meet the requirements in the USDA harmonized audit, they would also meet the requirements of the Produce Safety Rule. Next slide. The Harmonized GAP Plus audit is another audit we offer. It's based off the harmonized standard, but with additional requirements in each section. The audit standard has achieved technical equivalence to the Global Food Safety Initiative, which is a world recognized standard. Next slide. This audit can fit all operations, small or large, and the audit has the same scopes: field operations and harvesting and post-harvest operations, same as the other harmonized. Next slide. Now, let's go through the whole audit process. Next slide. As a grower, you would need to have a food safety program prepared. You would then call us to schedule your audit. An auditor will come out to conduct the on-site audit activity. after which an audit report is issued. If the operation meets USDA criteria, a certificate is issued to the auditee. And a certificate can be sent to buyers if requested by the auditees. There will also be an unannounced audit, which I'll talk about in a moment. And participating companies are listed on our website, our public website for everyone to see. However, if the operation does not meet USDA acceptance criteria, there will be corrective actions written up and completed by the grower. So the auditor is going to write the corrective action, send it to the grower so they know what weaknesses were in that at that operation, and the grower, operation, facility, farmer will address those corrective actions. And then we will come and do a follow-up audit and verify that you've addressed those identified issues. Next slide. In order to pass an audit, an operation must meet USDA criteria, but there are some conditions under which the audit will not pass. These are called automatic unsatisfactory conditions, such as maybe a bird pooping on an assembly line, there's an employee spitting, we may find used toilet tissue on the bathroom stall floor. So these are automatic failures in which the grower can still fix and rectify, maybe incorporate some new procedures. However, that will cause the audit to not meet USDA criteria, and we would need to schedule another follow-up audit. Another way an audit does not meet USDA criteria is by not meeting the 80 points. You're required to have 80 points or score 80 points out of 100 on an audit. So if you score less than 80 points, that is another way an audit will fail. Next slide, please. So unannounced audits. Unannounced verification visits are a requirement of the USDA GAP audit program. It's to ensure continued adherence to the good agricultural practices that we verified on the original audit. When or if we come out to conduct the unannounced audit is based on how long the season is. So if it's 30 days or less, there will be none. If it's 31 to 90 days, you're subject to one unannounced audit. And if your season is greater than 90 days, or you're in operation greater than 90 days, you are subject to us coming out to conduct 2 unannounced audits. And these audits are a much shorter audit than the original initial audit. Next slide. Some prerequisites for an operation to be GAP certified would be there must be a documented food safety program. Now, USDA we can't consult because we're the auditing body, but the implementation of the program does not need to be the employee's full-time responsibility. It can also, generally, we find that farmers have other jobs. But since we can't consult, we can direct you towards resources to help in the planning and development of your food safety program. Some of the resources we may recommend include the National Good Agricultural Practices Program based at Cornell University, which is www.gaps.cornell.edu. There's a training class available. There's also other sources available. Some types of material would be workshops, classes on how to write a food safety plan, food safety signs, example of records, forms, some templates, and water testing. There are also cooperative extension agents pretty much in each state that we would send you to, and private consultants. Next slide. This is our website, which explains all of the services we offer. It has the standards, the actual audit checklist, which you would be audited against, is all there. And it shows some of our different programs. Next slide. On our website, it contains the forms needed to request an audit, which is the SC 237A, the request for audit services, as well as the participation agreement, which is the SC 651. Those two forms would need to be completed to request an audit. Next slide. Once an operation has been GAP certified, they are listed on the website. And here's a image of our website where you can search by location, by commodity, by company name. You can find out if there's the neighboring farmers market or local farm is GAP certified. Next slide. And this is how the certified companies appear on our site. If you don't enter any search criteria, they're listed by state alphabetically. Next slide. Some resources from our page, including helping to develop a food safety program, are listed here. These are some of the resources that we would be directing you to if you're interested in starting a food safety program and becoming GAP certified. Next slide. So federal state auditors are in partnership with state departments of agriculture to be able to provide service locally to our customers. Next slide. Here is a map of where the auditors are located around the country. So we will always provide the closest available auditor to come out and conduct your audit. Next slide. Here is a map of where the auditors, in fiscal year 2003, this is an image of how many audits we have conducted. We performed a total of 138 in 2003, and this has grown consistently to staying over 4,000 audits since 2016. So we're at about 4,500 now this past year. And primarily, growers get the USDA GAP audit. But the harmonized audit is becoming increasingly more required by buyers and more popular, which was the idea. Next slide. Let's go over a couple of frequently asked questions. If you do not meet the requirements of an initial audit, do you need to start the whole process over? Nope. We would inform you of your findings, the issues that we found during your audit. You can address those findings by implementing your corrective action procedures, and then we will schedule a day to come back and verify what you've corrected. So if you do not meet the criteria, you can essentially meet criteria within a matter of a couple of weeks if the issue that we found is small. Is there a fee for the audit, and how much is it? Yes, the fee is $115 per hour, and that includes travel, preparation and paperwork for the audit, the actual on-site audit time, and review time, and actually posting of the certificate onto the website, generating the certificate and posting it to the website. How many visits will I have per year? So for the 12-month certification period, you'll have one visit. Your certification lasts 12 months. And if in operation more than 30 days, you're subject to at least one more visit. And it'll be much shorter than the initial. How long does an audit take? So an audit can take anywhere from 3 to 8 hours or even more. It really depends on how organized your paperwork is and how many acres and locations you have. If you have 100,000 acres and we need to go actually see the perimeter and go visit those fields. If you have 5 locations spread out over 100 miles, we need to ride around and actually go see those fields, at least for the initial audit. I have questions. Who should I call? Well, you can call the Audit Services Branch number or you can email me and I can answer your questions or direct you. Next slide. And there's my email right there. Do not have the number up, but if you wanted to email me, that would be probably the direct way to reach out. Or I can put the main number in the chat, actually. Any questions?
I've got one for you.
Sure.
It's going to be a little bit of a scenario driven for you, and it probably applies to a lot of our folks. So let's say we've got the folks that have been out here, they've been in the hobby vegetable garden for a few years, trying to see if they've got a green thumb, could grow stuff. And so they may have just been selling locally at the farmers markets, but they've gotten where they feel that they can expand the operation and they want to go to restaurants or whatever. And they've gone through trainings and all that, and they've gone through and actually put together all their operating procedures and maybe checklists to use for when they're applying herbicides or pesticides or anything like that, or whatever checklist they decide to develop. Is there anybody they can send that stuff to prior to requesting an audit to get a review of it to see if they have covered all the bases that they need and maybe hadn't forgotten something important? Because I know when you get in there and you start looking at the regulations and you start reading the federal code, you go back to the state code, and then you see the exceptions, because exceptions are where it always seems to get gray area and gets muddy quickly. Because you start reading it, you're like, well, I think I know what it said. And so I've applied it, I think, the right way. Is there anybody that you can send that stuff to that they could review it prior?
We can't review it prior because we're conducting the audit, but
Right.
we could link you up with a local extension agent who would probably be happy to help you because they're usually familiar with our audit. Another thing is you can do a self-audit. We have the actual checklist on our site. I can send you the actual checklist. So this is the audit. This is the actual audit that we're going to come out and conduct. We're going to sit there and go over each and every one of those requirements with you. So you have it ahead of time. So what you could do is do a self-audit and check off the questions. And if there are anything that you're not sure of, you could ask the extension agent. But there's also a nice manual that comes along. It's about 400 pages that explains in more detail than the standard what we're looking for in this requirement. And there's also example scenarios. So it's between all of those, you might not need to ask anyone else if you're meeting that requirement and if you have everything. Yes, you can. I see the questions. Can you use a consultant? First, let me ask, did I answer your question?
Heidi, did she get your question answered?
Yeah, she did. It was arguing with unmuting. Yeah, I think that did. I just figured I'd ask that because I know, like, when I was trying to go through all the stuff for figuring out the storage, and it took about 6 months of digging around to figure out who the actual place or organization is that I need to get the permits for things that I need to do for meat storage from a USDA processed animal. So I'm like, I can't imagine how this would be.
I'm sorry. Are you not talking about fruit and vegetables?
No, I was, but
Oh, okay.
I asked it, but based on that experience going, I know how those regulations get with exceptions, and you start reading it, you think you figured it out, and then you're like,
right. Well, this is a voluntary audit, so it's not regulatory. So we don't have as many of those types of requirements that you'll have to deal with.
okay.
By far, yeah. This will be a more pleasant experience, I would think. And as far as the consultant question, yeah, a lot of our farmers and operations go ahead and hire a consultant to help them develop their food safety plan. The problem with that is you have to customize it to your operation and be careful not to just use templates that speak about a generic type of process. We're coming to audit your process. So if we see that your food safety plan is not customized to exactly what you're doing, then that's where the requirements generally don't get met. but absolutely you can hire someone to help you develop your food safety plan. But again, there are plenty of resources with templates that can walk you through each step of your process, and it aligns with our standard. And the extension agents
Thank you.
can be happy to help.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Claire. That was awesome. And if you want to go ahead and send Kelby the checklist, we can share that along when we post the webinar. And we'll send it out to the participants as well. That'd be
Okay,
great.
I will send her all 3 checklists and standards.
Fabulous. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Alright.
well, thank you. So we'll go ahead and get into our next speaker. And his name is Joshua Coleman, and he is from FSA. And he is going to talk about the OCCSP Organic Certification Cost Share Program and the OTECP Organic and Transitional Education and Certification Plan. So welcome, Joshua, and we have your slides ready for you to go.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kelby, and good morning to everyone. Thank you for joining us and thank you for your service. Today, we'll be talking a little bit, as Kelby mentioned, about some of the organic programs that are available through Farm Service Agency for producers that are certified as organic or are transitioning into organic production. Next slide. So most of y'all have set in on these type of presentations before, and so you may have already gotten started and got set up with farm numbers to our agency. But for those of you that may not have, here's some items that you may want to bring to your first visit with FSA. So to establish your producer records and your farm records, we will need proof of identity. So that will include your driver's license, your social security card, and if you will be participating in our programs as an entity, we'll need your IRS employer identification number. For the farm number, we will need a copy of the recorded deed. A survey plat isn't required, but it does help us to determine the meets and bounds where we're going into our systems and drawing off the maps in our GIS software. If you don't own the land, then you'll need to provide a copy of a rental or a lease agreement to substantiate that you have control of the land that you're operating on. And so it's also important to remember that you don't necessarily have to own property to participate in FSA programs. If you are an entity, the articles of incorporation, if you are structured that way, will be requested. If you are a trust or an estate, we'll need those documents as well as partnership agreements if you are structured as a partnership. So having these items with you for your first visit will hopefully help to ensure a smooth and easy process with getting started. Next slide. So once those items are reviewed, FSA can register your farm or ranch in our database. So your local staff, they will create a map outlining your farm or ranch boundaries with acreage figures and provide you with that farm number. So having that farm number will allow you to access key USDA programs through FSA and NRCS, also allow you to vote in FSA county committee elections and allow you to sign up to receive routine program notifications. Next slide. So now we'll talk about the Organic Certification Cost Share Program, which is also referred to as OCCSP. Next slide. So OCCSP provides organic producers and handlers with financial assistance to reduce the cost of organic certification by reimbursing a portion of their paid certification costs. The cost share reimbursements cover up to 50% of certification costs each year, paying farmers up to $500 to certify each of the scope's categories, which can include crops, wild crops, livestock, and handling, which can be any processed products or any handling processes. Next slide. To apply for OCCSP, organic producers can visit any FSA county office or USDA service center. And you can also submit your application materials by email to your local staff. So some state agencies may establish a grant agreement with FSA through our national office, allowing the state agency to receive OCCSP funds and make payments to certified producers and handlers. If a state agency establishes an agreement to administer the program, both the state agency and FSA county offices in that state will accept applications and make payments to producers and handlers. Because state agencies may have a different application process than FSA, applicants should refer to their state agency's requirements and ensure they are using the correct application form. So here in Texas, both FSA and the Texas Department of Agriculture will accept applications and make payments for OCCSP. It's also important to note that since Texas participates in the program, OCCSP applicants shall not apply through both TDA and FSA for cost share assistance for the same scope in the same program year. So you can't get duplicate benefits in the same year through this program. Next slide. So when applying to OCCSP, producers should already have received their certification and have incurred expenses related to the renewal of the certification. Producers can then submit their OCCSP application using the instructions provided by FSA or the Texas Department of Agriculture, depending on which agency you apply through. Next slide. So producers may apply for cost share assistance for organic certification expenses paid between October 1st, 2021 and September 30th, 2022 by October 31st of this year. So ignore the November 1st date that's on the screen. For fiscal year 2022, the deadline to apply will be October 31st of this year. But when you do get ready to apply, we do encourage you to reach out to your local FSA office, or if you'll be applying through the Texas Department of Agriculture, reach out to them for additional details and deadlines, including any application materials and for any other eligibility paperwork that you may need. And it's also a good reminder for you moving forward to keep your records up to date and with you, so that way you can be reimbursed for any eligible expenses in upcoming years as well. Next slide. So next we'll talk about the new Organic and Transitional Education and Certification Program, known as OTECP, which was developed due to the economic challenges that arose during the pandemic that made obtaining and renewing organic certification financially challenging for many operations. Next slide. So farmers and ranchers across the country have faced significant supply chain challenges as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Certified organic and transitioning operations were directly impacted and experienced a loss of markets, increased transportation costs and processing costs, labor shortages, and delays and additional costs related to obtaining or renewing their organic certifications. Additionally, it's challenging for transitional organic farmers to obtain the premium prices that are often associated with organic commodities while transitioning to certified organic production. Next slide. For certified operations, the program provides additional coverage for their expenses with obtaining or renewing their organic certification for the crop, wild crop, livestock, processing, and state organic program categories. OTECP covers application fees, inspection fees, travel costs and per diem for organic inspectors, fees and costs associated with organic certification, state organic program fees, soil testing requirements, event registration fees, and user fees for sales assessments, and even postage for submitting materials. These additional coverages were identified based on the actual needs associated with applying for organic certification and from the feedback from producers and stakeholders across the country. So financial assistance under OTECP breaks down as follows. For certification costs for organic producers and handlers, reimbursement can be up to 25% of total costs to exceed no more than $250 per category. For eligible expenses for transitional producers, reimbursement costs are up to 75% of expenses not to exceed $750. Registration fees for educational events are up to 75% of the fees not to exceed $200. And soil testing can be reimbursed up to 75% of costs not to exceed $100. Next slide. So OTECP provides assistance for those eligible expenses paid for fiscal year 2022. So similar to OCCSP, the eligible date range for expenses is October 1st, 2021 through September 30th, 2022. The deadline for this program has not been announced yet, but it will be sure to communicate that out once it has been announced. Next slide. So when you look at required documentation, in addition to breaking out your expenses that have been paid by category, applicants will also self-certify to either having a valid organic certificate or documentation to show a transition to organic. And applicants are required to retain documentation in support of their application for 3 years after the date of approval. And that last bullet also applies to OCCSP. Next slide. So eligible producers and handlers can apply for OTECP by working directly with their FSA office at their local USDA service center. Applications can also be submitted by mail, fax, hand delivery, and any electronic means. Alternatively, producers with an e-authentication account may apply for the program via our OTECP application portal. Applications will be completed, electronically signed, and submitted directly to your local USDA service center through this online system. There's also an application portal user guide that's available with additional information, including step-by-steps on applying. So if you don't have an e-authentication account, you can visit farmers.gov/sign-in to learn more. It's also important to note that with e-authentication accounts, they can only be used for individuals and not entities or businesses. And so if you will be applying as an entity, you'll need to work through one of the other means with applying with your local FSA office. Next slide. So producers, owners, and others that are interested in keeping up to date with important FSA and NRCS program deadlines are strongly encouraged to sign up for GovDelivery. So this instant communication system allows newsletters, deadline reminders, and bulletins to be sent right to your email address. Producers can sign up online at farmers.gov/subscribe for email communications. You can also sign up to receive text alerts by texting your 2-letter state abbreviation and county name without spaces to 372-669. So for example, Bell County, Texas producers would text TX Bell, and San Saba County, Texas producers would text TX San Saba, all one word, to 372-669. Next slide. So this here's my information if you do have any additional questions about OCCSP or OTECP. And again, if you are interested in applying for this programs, you will do so through your local FSA office. If you don't know where your local FSA office is, you can find it online by visiting farmers.gov/service-locator. All right, and that should be it, Kelby.
Okay, awesome. Is there any questions for Josh?
Yeah, hi, Josh. This is Michael Zamuda. Nice to meet you, sir.
Yes, sir.
I just had a quick question. I put it on chat. I couldn't hear it. I had to go real quick for a couple seconds. But you mentioned that there's dual benefit doing the TDA and the FSA simultaneously. Can you just describe a little bit about how that works and how you can get dual benefit?
So to clarify, you cannot get dual benefit through the programs. And so OCCSP, that one is offered through FSA and the Texas Department of Agriculture. And so for the same scope within the same program year, which is October 1st through September 30th, you can only apply through one of our agencies for the same scope, which you'll be certifying. And so if you apply through FSA, you can't apply through TDA and vice versa. Now, if you're doing multiple different scopes, you could apply through both our agencies for those different scopes. But it may be simpler for just application wise, if you're doing multiple scopes, just apply through one agency or the other. So you can't get duplicate benefits for the same categories within the same year, applying through FSA or TDA. All right.
Okay, great. Well, if no one else has anything, we can go on to our last speaker. And his name is Robert Maggiani. And he is from Tofka. And so, Robert, we gave you sharing capabilities. So we have your websites listed here. So whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Okay, can y'all see anything there? Can y'all see
Yes.
that? Can y'all see the list of ATRA publications?
I can see it.
Yes, sir.
Well, all right, thanks y'all. Thanks Aaron and Kelby for having us. I did want to just give you a quick introduction to me as other than Kelby mentioned that I'm associated with TOFGA, the Texas Organic Farmers and Gardeners Association. I am indeed on the board of directors currently, and I've been involved with TOFGA since it was formed back in 1993. So that's been a while. I am showing you this web page from ATRA, which is a project of NCAT, National Center for Appropriate Technology. That's the organization I work for. We are a national organization with presence in about 10 or 12 different states. We have an office in 6 different states. Texas is one of them. There's 6 of us here in the office that's based in San Antonio. We don't often go there much anymore, but we do have an office in San Antonio. And I did want to show you real quick this list of publications that we have. I'm just going to go through it real quick. We have about 500 publications that are related to sustainable agriculture, organic agriculture, and now a term that we're starting to use more and more is regenerative agriculture. So I'm going to go down this list and just show you. You can see we have beef cattle publications, business planning, cattle production. These are all typically they're publications that are 8 to 10 pages long. Some of them are much longer. And actually some of the ones that are related to the organic sector that we've been talking about this morning do tend to be much longer. You'll see there, just for an example, a tip sheet that tends to be much shorter. That's like 3 or 4 pages. Dairy cattle, all these categories of topics of information, disease management. I just want to show you real quick. Espanol, we do have about 100 or so publications in Spanish. As we get down to farm safety, that's been another of the topic. I'm sorry, food safety. That was another one of the topics this morning. The folks from USDA talked about the GAP certification, and they did mention that GAP certification is a voluntary certification. I'll show you a website here in a minute that relates to the Texas Department of Agriculture, which is their certification that they're doing as it relates to a law that was passed. So when TDA does their audit, they call it an audit, not an inspection. When they do their audit of your farm, if you need it, it's under the law that's called the Food Safety Modernization Act. And you can see one of the publications that we have listed in our food safety section here is it's one of our most popular publications. And it's because farmers that are typically starting out, probably like all of y'all, not only have specialty crop production, but you have livestock. So you can see that like that 5th bullet point there under food safety considerations for integrating livestock into produce cropping systems. That's a very popular combination of enterprises on farms, particularly small and mid-scale farms. And so it is a real popular publication for us. As we go down the list, you can see specific fruits, funding, getting into local markets. So we deal not only with the production side of technical assistance and training, but we also deal with the business side of it. And I want to go down here real quick just to kind of get on the topic of this morning's webinar, and that's organic. I'll just really apologize if that bothers you, but I'm just going to move down real quick to the list. I want to show you all the extensive list of publications that we have that relate to the organic sector. And you can see it starts with organic certification. The folks here talked about the structure of the program and the history of it and the the agency that administers it and the certifying organizations. All of that's real important stuff. And we have a number of publications that deal with that. One of the things that makes us different, we don't do the inspections. And so we can, and we do, give a lot of advice and provide a lot of assistance to producers on how to actually do organic production. And you can see in this first section here, organic control of pests. You can see the number of pests that are of importance, not only in Texas, but nationwide, that we have publications on how do you deal with that under organic certification. We have downy mildew, we have Colorado potato beetle, we have late blight in potatoes, organic IPM information, peach diseases, very specific how to do things related to the product or produce that you are actually producing or thinking about farming. Organic farming, all the different, again, aspects of organic farming. You can see the next subsection. You can see all the lists of publications we have here. Organic field crops, specifically field crops, hemp production, hops production, cotton, alfalfa, very crop-specific stuff. Same with fruits, apples, brambles, which are blackberries, blueberries, raspberries, cherries, pears, plums, organic hogs. We have a lot of there's not very many certified organic livestock operations here in Texas, but USDA, if you paid attention recently, they're putting out a lot of money to try to help folks get into that sector. Organic livestock, some more publications on organic livestock. Again, organic marketing, the business side. You're going to be producing organic products. What are some of the things you have to pay attention to as you market and label the products? Here's organic poultry. Here's another subsection of organic production publications. And last but not least, the actual certification. And we've done a number of contracts with USDA to try to write guides for producer guides on how to actually follow the program guidelines. It can get a little confusing. It is very detailed. And as you would expect it to be, the certifiers and USDA want to make sure that producers are following the guidelines, and it can get complicated. And so here are some how-to guides that we publish on organic, and then some issues of how do you find the inputs. A lot of times, often, there was a little bit of a discussion earlier about organic seed, how to find those and what to do if in case you can't find what you're looking for. And so here's we deal with the same topics in a lot of our publications. And so I just wanted to show y'all, we do actually have about 200 publications that have the word organic in the title. And so I think it's important that as you're considering whether to get into that sector, that you take a look at these publications. I'm going to go to a different website here briefly. I did mention the Food Safety Modernization Act. That is a regulatory law, and therefore, as you would guess, it's administered by FDA, not USDA Ag Marketing Service. And it's actually a combination of about 10 or 12 different laws. And you can just see them kind of listed there briefly. There's a proposed rule for the agricultural water. There's food traceability. Traceability is a big aspect of food safety. It's a big part of GAP, which Ms. Rivera talked about, being able to literally find the field that a particular box of tomatoes was harvested in is the objective for this law. And you'd be surprised when you follow the guidelines that FSMA has developed. Producers are pretty good at it nowadays. Back when I was farming, I farmed back in the 70s and 80s, we didn't have any of that. So there's a lot of improvements that are happening as it relates to food safety and food traceability now. I'm sorry, but I can't seem to get access to the last website I did want to show you is the TAFCA webpage. It is, again, as I mentioned, I don't know why I can't seem to get to it here. We got this thing. There I go. Okay. I'm sorry. TAFCA, Texas Organic Farmers and Gardeners Association. I've been involved with it since it formed back in the early 90s. I was a farmer for a number of years back in the late 70s, early 80s. Joined the Texas Department of Agriculture Marketing Division in the mid 80s and worked there for about 30 years. I was there when Texas Department of Agriculture decided to get into the organic sector, and the standards were created in Texas back in 1989, actually before there was national standards. So Texas was actually the second state in the country to have organic standards. As you would guess, California was the first. But anyway, just briefly to TAFCA, I would encourage all of y'all who are listening here from Texas, if you're interested in getting into the organic sector, that you get familiar with TAFCA. You can see just in the second paragraph here briefly, the mission of the organization is to advance organic and sustainable agriculture by providing education, networking, and advocating on behalf of food and fiber producers. I'll click here real quick to show you the map of the state. Texas is divided. It'll load here in a minute. Whoop, darn page can't be found. I'm not sure why. Let me go back. I did want to show you the map of Texas. Texas, for TAFCA's purpose, it is divided into regions, and each region has a regional director. I'm the regional director for, well, I can't seem to get there. For Region 2, let's see if I can get there this way. Yes, here you can see the map. I am the regional director for Region 2, and based on the county in which you live, you can see which region you would belong to, and that you can then check here on the webpage, find your regional director, and then just get to know him or her. TAFCA does have an annual conference, which is our big get-together. Typically, it's in January. This upcoming year will be up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, actually in Mesquite. It'll be toward the end of January. There are, I guess, about anywhere from 400 to 500 members of TAFCA. And it's really the key place to go in Texas, the key organization to know if you're interested in the organic food sector. We have a number of people that have been doing it for many years. We do regional events. We do the statewide conference. And so I strongly encourage you to become a member of TAFCA and get to know people in your region. And so, Kelby, I think you do have the list of web pages that we visited here real quickly. Let me see if I can stop sharing here.
And I might be able to see if I start sharing. Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Let's see.
Okay. That's really a quick, I guess, nickel tour of all the resources that we have as available to all of y'all if you're interested in becoming organic producers. And I would strongly encourage you to do that. We're a big believer in the type of production that is certified organic, and we've been doing it. NCAD and ATRA has been doing it for 30 plus years. As I mentioned, I was at the Department of Agriculture when it actually got started here. So we're big believers in it. And I encourage you to give me a call. Someone mentioned earlier, I think it was Heidi, you asked a question of how can you, for producers who are working on doing their GAP certification manuals and all of that stuff, who could they pass that by for a look, just to have some comments? You can do that with us. We'll be glad to take a look at that stuff. So that's really all I have to say, Aaron. Be glad to take some questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Robert. And yes, NCAT, ATRA, and TAFCA, you guys have always been amazing at answering questions and showing up and helping out at events. So we're really grateful for all you do. And I can speak from experience that you guys are really out there in the fields with us, answering questions and doing those kinds of things, as well as our Farm Service Agency and some of our other USDA partners. You guys are, they know what they're talking about. They do it every day. So make sure you guys utilize them while we've got them. So if you have any questions, let's take those. I don't see any in the chat, but you guys can unmute your mics and then just ask those questions of either Robert or any of the speakers if you've got them.
Yeah, hi, Mr. Maggiani, Michael Zmuda, just a quick question. Not sure you can see me or not. I'm waving, but
See you. I don't know if you can see me, but
I can see you. I can see you.
Okay.
You got a hat on. I can't see your hat though. I hang on.
oh, it's an ag
Oh
chemical.
my goodness. I
Sorry
can
about
see you out of one of my eyes. No, but one of the question I had is I noticed on the TAFCA, there was a lot of vacancies. Are they planning on filling those so we have points of contacts in those different regions, or is it just a matter
We
of?
would love to. Unfortunately, we have difficulty getting people to stay. Everybody's real busy, and working and trying to make TAFCA successful is a volunteer position. So if you're in a region that you saw that had a vacancy and you're interested in possibly
Volunteering one of my colleagues.
sure, send me an email or
Okay.
send it to the TAFCA website. Please do that. We would appreciate
Good.
it.
I'll probably want to get a little bit more knowledgeable but I would like to get involved, but I'm definitely going to go into, I love the organics, the training and all that. And I think that's a really good thing you guys are doing. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.